Throughout history, cannabis has served various purposes in our lives. It has been used to create goods and for religious and spiritual purposes. It also provided pain relief for those in distress. For almost 12,000 years, ancient China, ancient Greece, and ancient Egypt utilized cannabis and hemp plants for different reasons. The first ancient culture that took advantage of the hemp plant and cannabis was China. China first adopted cannabis as a sort of medicine used to treat its patients for any sort of pain that they were in. All parts of the cannabis plants have been recorded in historical Chinese medical texts, including the chini seed, female inflorescence, leaf, and root, as well as the cortex of the stalk and the water used to process the stalk into fiber. However, only the Aquinas seeds are currently used in clinical practice. EJ&Z 2017, page 3. This source details the specific parts of the cannabis plant used in ancient China and their purpose, primarily focusing on treating pain and mental illness through the use of CBD and THC. In his text, Li Shichen talks about every form of medication the Chinese used, including cannabis. Li Shichen 615, page 79. Li Shichen talks about cannabis use in depth to the extent that herbalists attempted to outline it to make it easier to read in a manual format. One artifact that the Chinese used were shoes made of hemp fibers from the hemp plant. It was made in 721 AD, and almost every person wore them. In Li Hu Lin's description of these uses, he displayed that hemp plants were used in many different ways on a daily basis. Li Hu Lin, 721 AD, 442. Overall, China took full advantage of the hemp plant, and this talked about the multiple uses of a hemp plant and how you can do so much with it. The second ancient culture that took advantage of hemp plants and cannabis was Greece. Hemp cannabis has been utilized throughout history for a multitude of purposes, including the production of mats, shoes, cloth, and ropes. Boutrica 2002, 51. The Greeks predominantly utilized it for the creation of nautical ropes known as koloi, which were used for furling sails and commonly referred to as reefing ropes in the English language. In Herodotus' article, he describes how they would put cannabis seeds on hot stones to purify themselves with a steam bath instead of a water bath. Then they would lather themselves with it after it was oily to put a smelling odor onto them, and after taking it off, it would heal their skin and make it clean. Herodotus 430 BC, page 271. It's worth noting that the Greeks made the most out of cannabis and hemp by using them for various purposes. They had an artifact called a smoking pot, which was probably used with wooden bowls as braziers to burn cannabis and release its mind-altering smoke. This pot, produced in 440 BC, was widely used in ancient Greece. In Smithsonian's text, he describes someone who would use this as someone seeking to communicate with nature, spirits, or deceased people. Smithsonian 440 BC, page 1. The Greeks used a smoking pot to connect with loved ones and for spiritual purposes. This artifact sheds light on how cannabis was important to their culture. The Egyptians were the final ancient culture to utilize the benefits of cannabis and hemp plants. They primarily used cannabis for medicinal purposes by ingesting or smoking it, making it an important component of their ancient medicine. It was discovered after finding charred remains of Egyptians that they found hemp seeds in the caskets. Lawyer 2018, page 2. Egyptians may have wanted to be buried with hemp seeds because they believed it had healing properties for their lives and the afterlife. In Brian's translation of Egypt, he talked about how they mixed hemp ground with honey as a natural remedy. Brian 1550 BCE, page 108. It was used as a medicine, and they also used it to treat sore eyes and for relieving hemorrhoid pain. As described in Beattie's article, this artifact is an ancient tabloid used to describe the use and benefits from the cannabis plant. It talks about the use of cannabis seeds and how they can cure lots of sicknesses. Beattie 1300 BC, page 4. It gives instructions on how to use cannabis plants and the certain benefits from different parts of the plants. This artifact most likely came in handy thousands of times for people who lived in ancient Egypt that were seeking healing and also wanted to learn more about the uses and benefits of the cannabis plants. Below, I've implemented my credits with various sources that I've used to create my project.